Hi, my name is Michelle Ryan. I'm here today to talk to you about the collaborative service project I'm presenting. I am a graduate candidate with Arkansas State University in their Master of Special Education program. Let me tell you a little bit about the county that I work in. I work in Henrico County, Virginia. We're home to more than 50,000 students. It's a very large county, and we have more than 7,000 special education students that we serve. There are 46 elementary schools, 12 middle schools, and 11 high schools, along with a career and technical education center at 2 of our high schools. Our elementary schools are located within communities, and they are very small. They serve students in grades 5K through 5, and they also have early childhood education programs for kids who require services at a very young age for developmental delays, developmental disabilities. We also have 11 middle schools, and those schools are listed here. We have 12 high schools that serve grades 9 through 12. This school that I work at is called L. Douglas Wilder Middle School, and as we affectionately call it, Wilder Middle School. Again, we serve grades 6 through 8. Our student population is around 800. It fluctuates, and we do have quite a bit of transient population and moving in and out of our county or in and out of our district. Our staff and faculty numbers are 114. To begin with, I would like to talk about collaboration. Collaboration in education is when members of a community work together with a common purpose as equals to create inclusive learning environments. They help students to learn and to develop and deliver instruction to students to meet the needs for developing academics, developing character, and citizenship skills. We have many collaborative teams at Wilder. Some of them are positive behavior interventions and support team. We call it PBIS team, RTI team, child find team, leadership team, grade level teams, grade levels 6th, 7th, and 8th, content teams, English, math, social studies, science, CTE, which is the electives. We also have our GISA team, which is our Gifted Young Scholars Academy teachers. We have a community leadership team, we have an exceptional ed team, and we have co-teaching teams in our building for all content areas subjects. Let's start with our PBIS team. Our PBIS team works collaboratively with the faculty and staff to develop school-wide behavioral expectations and create specific action plans to implement this PBIS consistently throughout the school. Our administrator is Mr. Thrower, the counselor is Ms. Nill, and our community and school site coordinator also participates in PBIS, Ms. Collins. Our next team is our RTI team. RTI stands for Response to Intervention. They work collaboratively with teachers and students to determine if students require additional supports more than Tier 2 instruction. And they design and implement this Tier 1, Tier 2 instruction for students. Their goal is to support the needs of students so that they do not need Tier 3 instruction, which is special education services. Our testing coordinator, counselor, and our school psychologist are all members of that RTI team. Our Child Find team is made up of each grade level administrator per the student, a grade level counselor for the student, the school psychologist and social worker, any related service personnel that need to be included, which could be speech language pathologist, occupational therapist, or physical therapist, and of course the parent. And the Child Find team works collaboratively to identify students in our school who are not responding to RTI and who need additional supports and services. And they initiate the testing procedures for eligibility. A very important team at our school is our leadership team, which is headed by our principal, Mrs. Browdy. We have an associate principal, Mr. Amico. We have 3 assistant principals, Mr. Elmore, Mr. Thrower, and Ms. Hill. The leadership team works collaboratively to analyze student testing data, review and support instructional practices, develop in school improvement plans, and assess their effectiveness. Where they are also school leaders of the Virginia School Improvement Plans, and they also are leaders of the content teams, exceptional education department, and grades 6th, 7th, and 8th teams. The next team I want to discuss is our grade level team. So we have 6th, 7th, and 8th grades at our school. So each grade level has their own team, and each team is made up of the grade level administrator and all the teachers that teach in that grade level. And they work together to troubleshoot behavior problems, hallway issues. They also do fun things like plan assemblies, plan field trips and dances, and fundraising activities. So I've listed each grade level administrator and the team leader. There's a teacher who is chosen as a team leader for teachers to provide some additional supports there. And then we have our content teams, content for English, math, social studies, and science. And each of those contents are led by an administrator within the school, and they'll also have a department chair, or as in some cases, there's multiple department chairs because the team is so big. So we currently have 4 content teams at Wilder. There are content teams for electives, but they play a much smaller role, and they sort of collaborate together. The content teams have responsibilities for taking data and making sure that they are presenting at our Virginia Improvement Plan meetings, which we have monthly. So they have a lot of work that they have to do and oversee, and data that they have to supply so that we stay in compliance as an accredited school. The next team I want to talk about is the community leadership team. Within Wilder, we have a program around, it's called the CLC program. It is a partnership between Henrico County and the community to deliver not only instruction, but activities and support, things that go on in the community that we can bring to the school building, such as recycling or gardening. Our school has started a garden, a community garden, where they plant food and they sell it to the community for, they not very much money, but it's to support the community around our school. It also invites family members into the school during these activities that we promote, which can occur after school and on Saturdays and during the summer, to get families more engaged and included in the school and the community at large. There are several people that work in the CLC program. There is a coordinator, but there are also many teachers who work and provide support and run programs in this. It's sort of an after-school program. The next team I want to talk about is definitely close to my heart. This is the exceptional education team, which I am one of the co-department chairs. We have a very large team of 25 members. We have 13 teachers and I think, I guess 12 para-educators, paraprofessionals who work with students in the classroom and work with teachers. Our administrator is Mr. Thrower, and we have more than 175 students that we provide services for, write IEPs for, test. So it is it's a very large part of the school, and we are in every facet of the school. We are in every content area, every grade level. Our co-teaching teams are across contents, and they are in math, science, social studies, and English. They are implemented by grade levels. So each math grade level team has like 2 pairs. So in 6th, 7th, and 8th, there are 2 collaborative pairs for math, 2 collaborative pairs for English. In social studies and science, however, there are 3 collaborative pairs, and there are more collaborative classes. I will say in math and in English, teachers, content teachers and special education teachers come together to deliver instruction, plan and deliver. In social studies and science, it is a content teacher and a paraprofessional who come together. And the paraprofessional does not plan instruction, but does assist with some of the delivery and support in the classroom. Moving on to our next slide is our Gifted Young Scholars Academy. Wilder has a school within a school. We 3 years ago, they started the GISA program, and it's for students who are identified gifted in both reading and math. And they are tested, and they go through a vetting process with an application. And we have 100 students per grade level in this Gifted Young Scholars Academy. Our coordinator is our principal, and there are 13 teachers which serve these scholars across the board. And many of these scholars are taking much higher level math, humanities, history, and science to support them. They also have lots of different activities where they collaborate with other teachers in the school building, and of course students in the school building, to try to make it as inclusive a program as possible. So yes. All right, so going back to co-teaching at Wilder, as I said, there are 2 to 3 co-teaching pairs per grade level per content for math, English, social studies, and science. And again, in math and English, you're going to have a content teacher and a special education teacher planning, collaborating, designing instruction, and implementing instruction. In social studies and science, there is a content teacher and a paraprofessional, and the paraprofessional does not design instruction, but they will implement and support in the classroom for the things that students with disabilities require. At Wilder, we feel that it's very important for us to be working with our parents. They are an integral part of our IEP teams, eligibility teams, but even as a broader school, we have a lot of programs where we try to bring parents in to get them working with us as partners to help educate these students. We have a community and schools coordinator and a family advocate that work inside the school building to support some of the needs of our students. And of course, I mentioned earlier that we have a number of paraprofessionals in our building. We have a total of, I want to say, 12, I believe, 12 paraprofessionals, and they range from full-time status to part-time status. And many of the full-time paraprofessionals work directly with teachers, both in the collaborative social studies and science department teachers classes, And then they also work in the integrated services classroom. So those are classrooms that support kids with autism and intellectual disability. Those classrooms where paraprofessionals work very closely with students who need functional skill help, social skill, communication skill help are really important. We also have part-time employees that work with specific students in classrooms. We do have a number of students around our building that require additional supports, and so they also work one-on-one with those students. So I want to talk now about the process for initiating special education services. So when a student has not met the criteria of like the pass rate or the cutoff for assessments in the RTI classroom or the RTI groups for reading or for math, and even behavior and social skills. Those students are referred by the RTI team to the Child Find team. The Child Find team, which you know is made up of members of the RTI team, they meet with the parent to discuss the results of the concerns of the teacher and the results of formative tests within the RTI intervention program. And they may decide to initiate testing at that time, which kicks in the Child Find process, the testing process. And so at that point, once they have discussed with the parent and they've gotten parent permission for testing, they will move forward with testing, and they have 65 business days to complete testing. And the testing ranges from educational, psychological, cognitive, and sometimes they do functional testing. They definitely do an observation. And if the student needs speech and language testing or additional testing, they do add that too into all the testing that is completed. Once the testing is done, there is a group meeting that includes a special education chairperson, and we discuss the results of all the tests. And at that meeting, we all decide together collectively as a group whether the student meets the criteria for special education services. And there is a critical question on the eligibility forms: does this student require specially designed instruction? And so we all decide together as a group whether the student does in fact need that SDI. If the student does meet the requirement, the student is then going to have an IEP, and that IEP must be done within 30 days, calendar days. So very shorter time period, but the IEP, the department chairperson that is at the meeting will assign a case manager, and that case manager will meet with the parent and propose an IEP before 30 days occurs. And then the IEP takes effect if the parent accepts the proposal. So the roles of individuals in the Child Find team: the school psychologist is going to conduct educational and cognitive testing. The social worker is going to work with the family, interview parents and the student, and may even do some functional skill testing or adaptive skill testing, behavior rating scales. The counselor will complete an educational observation, and she sits on the RTI team as well, she or he. And they refer students to the Child Find team. The general education teacher is going to provide the documentation and data of the tiered levels of RTI support that the student required and whether or not they met the minimum criteria. And they're also going to speak to the needs of the student within the context of their classroom. The administrator will run the Child Find meeting or eligibility meeting. They assign teachers usually to take notes or keep time to make sure that the meeting is run proficiently and well. They also are going to analyze the testing data, along with the other members of the team, and they will be able to speak to the services that the school is able to provide and that are available for students if that student meets the criteria for exceptional education. And they are there to be able to allocate those services. The special education chairperson really is part of that analyzing process and looking at the data and looking at ways that the student can be supported, and whether or not that support is going to be through special education services or a 504 plan or other avenues. But they're also there as the special education representative. So there's a couple ways that our collaborative teams are assessed at Wilder. First of all collaborative teams do self-assessments periodically throughout the year to just kind of gauge how the collaborative teams are working, how their members are feeling. Also, they do the team assessment. So they're doing self-assessments and team assessments to just give the team leaders an idea of how well they're working together and whether they have to troubleshoot problems or if they need to maybe change some of the actions that they're taking. They also are provided feedback from their team leaders, so they can make changes if need be, or know that they're heading in the right direction if that's the case. At the district level, there are specialists for each content level and exceptional education who go to the schools, visit the schools regularly, and monitor the collaborative partnerships. So especially in respect to the teaching partnerships, co-teaching partnerships, they want to make sure that the teams are building strong skills together. They're working great together, and they have effective outcomes as well. Much of the data that is collected in these classrooms is going to be analyzed during our Virginia School Improvement Plan meetings. And so it's important that the collaborative teams really work together so they get those positive outcomes. And so the specialist offers support also with professional development for teachers who are working in those pairs to kind of provide the best instruction and the best support possible for students. Our related service providers at Wilder and at all schools in the district will have a speech language pathologist, an occupational therapist, a physical therapist, and of course we do have a social worker. Our English as a second language teacher is also a support. While we don't have a huge ESL population, she is there to support our L students, and she does push in support in collaborative classrooms, general education classrooms, and even in our integrated service classrooms. And just to note, our occupational therapists and our physical therapists, we share with other schools. So they're not there every day like our speech pathologist is. Those two therapists visit different schools and have a rotation and have a schedule that they set with the students that they need to work with. Communities and schools. So Communities in Schools is a partnership with Henrico County, and we do have a site coordinator at our building. We also have a family advocate. We have a community leadership coordinator, and our school resource officer is also supportive of our families and making sure that our students are supported both in school and in their communities at home. Our Reset coordinator also supports character development, and Reset is a program that was put in place to move away from in-school suspension. And so Reset is a place for students to go if they have infractions and violations of the school code of conduct where they need to kind of reset their brains and prepare for the next day and restart. So those are our communities and schools collaborative relationship partnerships. In addition to those teams, we also have instructional coaches for technology support, math, and reading. And of course, our instructional learning coach goes into classrooms to work with teachers to support technology, the use of technology with student learning, and they actually will work with teachers, collaborative partners, or teachers to develop those lesson plans. Technology is very important in our county. Each student has a one-to-one, which is a laptop or iPad or Chromebook from elementary school on to high school. And so the county has spent quite a bit of money to try to foster that technology, and we have to make sure that we're using it, and especially with the virtual learning platform that we are getting ready to go back to in the fall when we start school. We are learning lots and lots of tools to use in our virtual lesson plans. There are parent advocacy groups in our county, and there's many different parent advocacy groups. These are just a few: Down Syndrome Association, Autism Society, PFLAG, Decoding Dyslexia. They're just a few of the groups that work with our parents to help them support their families and students. In Richmond, we have the Vocational Virginia Department for Aging and Rehabilitative Services, and they work with people who need help finding jobs and living independently in the community. And they work with individuals from every type of disability, but they also provide vocational counseling, training, and job placement. Many of our students that have significant disabilities will work closely with DARS as they get ready to graduate from high school to get to prepare for life after high school, post-secondary. In middle school, there isn't a huge need in Virginia. We do start transition services. We start writing transition goals at 14. However, the DARS coordinator primarily works with our 9th through 12th graders in our high schools. Another service that's provided in our county is the Henrico Area Mental Health and Developmental Services. And these are services for students and families and at risk for mental illness, developmental disabilities, substance abuse, or any kind of disorders that present with a developmental delay for their children. They have community support services, emergency services, treatment options, and court-appointed services. So in many cases, our counselors at school work with any kind of mental health worker at this Henrico Mental Health Services to support our students. They do not come into our school building. They work with us sort of as a support in, it's kind of a separate agency. But if we do have a student in crisis, we are able to contact them, and they can provide supports that way. Oh, so our final slide is the early childhood special education services. So all counties, all districts, all schools have to provide early childhood special education for students who may need that support. Any student who's identified, any child who's identified for these programs under the age of 5 can go to a local elementary school, and those elementary schools provide all kinds of support, and whether it's a full day program or a half day program, these services are only offered in our elementary schools. So our middle schools and our high schools do not see these early childhood special education teachers, but those services are provided, and they are throughout our county in many of our elementary schools. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this information about collaboration in both at Wilder Middle School and also in Henrico County. I enjoyed presenting to you. Thank you very much.